Have you ever felt like you had everything the world could offer, yet somehow, you still felt empty? Money, power, a mansion with countless rooms, but when you walk through the doors, silence is the only thing waiting for you. That's where our story begins, with a man who seemed to have it all but was lonelier than he could ever admit. And in one moment, with 6 small words from 2 little girls, his life changed forever. Ethan Miller was the kind of man people read about in magazines. He was the CEO of a billion-dollar company, driving cars most people only dreamed of, eating at the finest restaurants, and living in a penthouse that looked down on the city skyline. But when the lights dimmed, when the applause faded, when the boardrooms emptied, there was no one to ask him how his day had been. No one to share dinner with. No one to look into his eyes and see past the title of CEO. His success came with a price: his relationships, his family, his sense of home. One cold evening, Ethan sat alone at his favorite restaurant. The staff greeted him politely, as they always did, with that mix of respect and distance reserved for the wealthy. He ordered more than he could eat, perhaps out of habit, perhaps out of trying to fill a hunger that food never could. When he pushed his plate away, half of the steak untouched, he asked for the bill. That's when he heard a soft, hesitant voice behind him. "Excuse me, sir, may we have your leftovers?" Ethan turned, surprised. Standing there were 2 little girls, no older than 9 or 10. They looked almost identical twins, with tangled hair, worn-out coats, and eyes that carried a weight far beyond their years. At first, Ethan thought he misheard. But then one of them pointed shyly at his plate, her small hand trembling. His heart tightened. These weren't children who should have been begging for scraps. They should have been at a table of their own, laughing over pizza or spaghetti, carefree and safe. The waiter moved quickly, embarrassed, trying to shoo them away. But Ethan raised his hand. "It's okay," he said. He pulled the plate closer, motioned to the girls, and asked the waiter for 2 clean forks. They climbed into the booth beside him, whispering thanks, and began eating carefully, almost too politely for their hunger. Ethan watched in silence, something stirring in him he hadn't felt in years. When one of the girls finally looked up at him, he froze. Her eyes, big, brown, and full of sorrow, held his gaze. It was like she was asking him a question without words: "Why are you alone, too?" For a brief moment, it felt as though she could see straight into his soul, into the hollow places he kept hidden behind wealth and titles. Ethan couldn't let it go. He asked where their parents were. The girls exchanged a look and said softly, "It's just us and Mom. She's sick. We don't have much." Something inside Ethan cracked wide open. He remembered his own childhood, raised by a single mother who worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table. He remembered the nights when he, too, had gone to bed hungry. He had buried those memories under layers of success, but now, staring at these girls, it all came rushing back. He paid for their meal, ordered extra food to take with them, and insisted on walking them home. Their home turned out to be a cramped, run-down apartment in a part of the city he hadn't stepped foot in for decades. Their mother lay inside, pale and weak, clearly fighting an illness without the help she needed. Ethan stayed longer than he expected, talking to her, listening to her story, and realizing just how invisible struggles like theirs were to people like him. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. For the first time in years, his penthouse felt suffocating. The silence wasn't just quiet, it was deafening. He saw those girls' eyes every time he closed his own. The next morning, he made calls. Doctors for their mother. Groceries delivered weekly. A fund to ensure the girls stayed in school. But more than that, Ethan began visiting them, not as a savior, but as a friend. Slowly, awkwardly, he became part of their world. The twins started calling him Uncle Ethan. They made him laugh in ways his boardroom never could. They reminded him of the boy he used to be, the one who once dreamed of making life better for people like his mom, before ambition and greed took over. Piece by piece, those little girls filled the cracks in his heart. Months later, their mother regained her health with proper treatment. She cried when she told Ethan she didn't know how to thank him. But he shook his head, smiling for the first time in years and meaning it. "It's me who should thank you," he said. "You reminded me what really matters." Ethan still ran his company. He still wore suits and signed deals. But now, when he looked in the mirror, he didn't just see a lonely CEO. He saw a man who had chosen to open his heart again. A man who understood that wealth was meaningless unless it was shared. And every weekend, without fail, He saved a place at his table for two little girls who had once just asked for leftovers, but gave him back the one thing money could never buy: family. And so, if you're listening to this and thinking your success will fill the emptiness inside, remember this: sometimes the thing you need most comes from the unlikeliest places, from the eyes of a child, from a simple request, from a reminder that you were never meant to do life alone, because in the end, it's not the wealth you build, but the love you share, that makes a life worth living.